I had always trusted my wife, Sarah. We had been together for 7 years, and in that time, I had never once questioned her loyalty. She was the kind of person who radiated kindness, always the life of the party, always thoughtful with others. People adored her, and I, of course, was proud to call her my wife. But I didn't see what was coming. It started out innocently enough, at least. That's what I tried to tell myself. She'd been going out more often lately, to what she called girls' nights, or work events. I didn't mind. She deserved time for herself, and I trusted her. But there were little things that started to nag at me. Text messages she would hide or quickly dismiss when I walked into the room, her phone always on silent, and her late nights growing more frequent. I tried to ignore my suspicions, convincing myself that I was just being paranoid. One Friday evening, Sarah came home looking particularly glowing. She told me she was heading out for a dance class with some friends. "It's nothing serious, just something fun," she assured me, her eyes lighting up with excitement. I smiled, happy that she was enjoying herself. But there was a small voice in my head that told me to be cautious. The next day, she seemed unusually distant, constantly checking her phone and avoiding eye contact. I didn't say anything, but the unease in me was growing. Then on Sunday afternoon, she came home with a gift, a bracelet that I knew she didn't buy for herself. When I asked her about it, she explained that a friend had given it to her. It was a sweet gesture, I thought, but why did she seem so nervous when she told me about it? The real turning point came a few days later, when I received a message from a mutual friend. The message simply said, "Hey, I heard you saw Sarah's dance video last night." I was confused. I hadn't seen anything. I quickly asked Sarah about it, and she seemed genuinely surprised that I knew. "Oh, it's just something I did at the party," she explained, her voice a little too calm. It took me a few more days before I found the video, one of her dancing at a nightclub in a very seductive manner with a man I didn't recognize. I watched in disbelief as she moved closer to him, their bodies in sync, laughing and touching each other. She seemed lost in the moment, completely oblivious to the world around her. The man's hand lingered on her waist, and I saw something in Sarah's eyes that I had never seen before: desire. I confronted her that night. My voice trembled with anger and confusion as I asked her about the video. She tried to deny it at first, saying it was nothing, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was just a dance, I swear. We were just having fun." But I knew then that it was more than that. Her innocent dance, something she had claimed was playful and harmless, had been a moment of connection, of flirtation, of intimacy. And that was the final straw for me. The trust that I had spent years building with her had shattered in an instant. I asked her to leave that night. She cried, begged, and apologized, but I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. The woman I had thought I knew, the woman I had loved, had been hiding something from me. It wasn't the dance itself, but the betrayal behind it that hurt the most. The realization that my wife had crossed a line I could never unsee, and that our marriage was built on a foundation of lies. As Sarah left, she told me, "I never meant to hurt you, but I knew the truth now." The innocent dance she had described wasn't innocent at all. It was the beginning of something that would change everything. And now, all I could do was pick up the pieces of my broken heart. The days after Sarah left felt like I was walking through a fog. My mind couldn't stop replaying the events. The video, her excuses, the way she looked at me with guilt when she tried to explain herself. I kept asking myself, why didn't I see this coming? I tried to focus on work, but I found it nearly impossible. Every time I looked at my phone, I half expected her to text or call, offering an explanation that would make everything make sense. But nothing came, just silence. A week later, I ran into one of Sarah's close friends, Emily. I had always liked Emily. She was blunt, no nonsense, and a good friend to both of us. I wasn't sure if I wanted to see her, but it was hard to avoid people we both knew in a small town like ours. Emily seemed hesitant at first, but then she asked, "How are you doing, really?" I hesitated, not sure how much I should share. But after everything that had happened, I needed someone to talk to. "It's been hard," I admitted. "I found out about the dance video." Emily's eyes widened, and she quickly looked around, ensuring no one was listening. "Listen, I don't know all the details, but there's something you should know," she began, lowering her voice. "There was more to it than just a dance, okay? Sarah's been seeing someone else. It's been going on for months now." My heart dropped. The ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling. I stared at her, unable to speak for a moment. "What do you mean, seeing someone else?" "She's been with me for years." This can't be true." Emily sighed, clearly pained by the situation. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but she's been involved with this guy from her work. I didn't know how to break it to you, and Sarah swore me to secrecy. But if you saw that video, you must know it wasn't just dancing. She's been hiding it, pretending everything was fine, but it wasn't. She's been distant for a while." A sharp pain hit my chest as the weight of her words sank in. Months. That's how long Sarah had been lying to me. All this time, I'd been trying to rationalize her behavior, telling myself it was just stress or needing space. But she had been living a double life. I didn't know how to process the betrayal. Emily's revelation hit me like a tidal wave, and all I could think about was how much Sarah had changed, how much I had missed. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was not the same person anymore. "Thank you for telling me," I whispered, feeling lost and betrayed. Emily gave me a sympathetic look, but I could see the sadness in her eyes. She knew how much this would hurt. That night, I didn't sleep. The images of Sarah and the other man haunted me, dancing together, laughing, enjoying moments that I should have been a part of. I kept thinking back to all the little things I had ignored over the past few months. The way she became more secretive, the way she'd smile absently when I asked about her day, the way she'd go out late without any real explanation. She'd been slipping away for so long. I debated calling her. Part of me wanted to hear her side of the story, to understand what had pushed her to make the choices she did. But another part of me didn't want to hear the lies anymore. I had been living in a fantasy for so long, and I needed to wake up. I wasn't sure if I could ever trust her again. The next morning, I packed up some of her things, her clothes, a few of her personal items that she had left behind when she moved out, and I decided it was time to face her. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I needed answers. She had to understand the extent of the damage she had caused. When I arrived at her apartment, I could feel my heart racing. I knocked, and she opened the door slowly, her face soft with uncertainty. Her eyes quickly darted to the box of things in my hands, and I could tell she knew exactly what was coming. "Are you here to yell at me?" she asked quietly, almost as if she were bracing herself. "I know I've hurt you, but please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far." My voice faltered, but I couldn't hold back anymore. "How could you, Sarah? How could you lie to me for months, sneak behind my back, and betray everything we had? Was our marriage just a joke to you? The video, the other guy, everything was a lie." Her eyes filled with tears, but I couldn't feel sorry for her anymore. She wasn't the woman I thought she was. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," she whispered. "It just happened. It's complicated. I don't even know how to explain it. I've made so many mistakes." I shook my head. "There's no excuse for what you did. You betrayed me. You betrayed us." I handed her the box of her things. "Take it. Take everything. It's over." She reached out, but I stepped back, the finality in my voice clear. "Goodbye, Sarah. I hope you find what you're looking for." I turned and walked away, leaving the woman I had once loved standing there, tears streaming down her face. But as I drove away, I realized something. No matter how much it hurt, no matter how broken I felt, I was better off without her. The trust had been shattered beyond repair. I had to let go. The following weeks felt like I was living in a fog. It was as though I had been thrust into a new reality where everything I had once known had crumbled. Sarah's betrayal, the lies, the deception. It all felt like a bad dream that I couldn't shake off. But the hardest part was the emptiness that followed. I moved through my days mechanically, going to work, meeting friends, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. But inside, I felt hollow. There were moments when I'd catch myself thinking of her. The way she used to smile, the way we'd laugh together over dinner, the warmth of her touch. And then, without fail, the crushing reality would hit me. Those moments were gone. She had made sure of it. I began to distance myself from people who had been close to both of us. It felt like a betrayal to even mention Sarah's name, and I couldn't bear to hear others ask about her. Everyone, from mutual friends to family members, had their opinions about what had happened. Some sympathized with me, some tried to make excuses for Sarah, but none of it helped. I just wanted to forget. One evening, I found myself sitting alone in my apartment, sipping a glass of whiskey, trying to quiet my mind. My thoughts kept circling back to the night I'd found out about Sarah and the man she'd been seeing. I couldn't stop replaying her words. Asterisk, I didn't mean to hurt you. It just happened. Asterisk, it wasn't the first time I had heard those words from someone who had betrayed me. I had heard similar things before, in other relationships, but this one felt different. Sarah was supposed to be the one person I could trust, the one person who would never let me down. Yet, here I was, facing the harsh reality of her infidelity. I tried dating again briefly, but it felt wrong. Each time I went out with someone new, I couldn't help but compare them to Sarah, and I realized that no one would ever measure up. Not because they weren't good enough, but because I wasn't ready. My heart was still raw, and I had to heal before I could even think about moving forward. One night, months after the breakup, I decided to check my old social media account. I hadn't been on it in a while, and part of me was hoping to find a distraction from my own thoughts. As I scrolled through the feed, something caught my eye, a picture of Sarah. It wasn't a new post, but it had been shared recently by one of her friends. In the photo, she was laughing, looking carefree, surrounded by people who seemed to adore her. But what struck me most wasn't the smile on her face. It was the caption. It read, asterisk, finding myself again after everything. Asterisk. I stared at the screen for a long time, unable to process what I was reading. It hit me hard. Sarah had moved on. She had found herself. She had started over, and she had done it without me. In that moment, I realized how much I had been holding on to the past, trying to piece together what was broken, trying to find closure in a situation that couldn't be fixed. She had already let go, and I was still clinging to memories of a love that no longer existed. The realization was a wake-up call. I had spent so much time trying to understand why she had cheated, trying to decipher her actions and words. But what I hadn't understood was that her choices were hers to make. The pain I was holding on to was mine to heal. I had to stop looking for answers from her or from anyone else. The truth was, Sarah's innocent dance had been the turning point for both of us. For her, it was the first step in moving toward something new. For me, it was the moment I began to understand that sometimes, no matter how much you love someone, things fall apart. People change, and some things can never be put back together. That night, I finally made peace with the situation. I deleted her number from my phone, unfollowed her on social media, and decided to stop looking for signs of her in my life. It was time for me to move on, too. The healing wouldn't happen overnight. I knew that. But for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of hope. The weight that had been on my shoulders for so long began to lift little by little. I realized that I wasn't broken, just scarred. And those scars were a reminder that I had the strength to rebuild, to love again, and to trust again, just not right now. I had learned a painful but valuable lesson. When trust is shattered, no amount of dancing or apologies can fix it. The only thing that can heal is time, and the only thing I could control was how I chose to move forward. And so, with a quiet resolve, I stepped into the future, one that no longer included Sarah, but one that, hopefully, would include a version of myself that was whole again,